As you see, today I'm making a tutorial for you guys. Today's Java tutorial is sort of a miscellaneous tutorial. There are a lot of little things I haven't covered yet that weren't worth making a whole tutorial just for that. So there are basically three things that I wanted to cover that just am cramming in this tutorial. Those are strings, basic input, and variable conversions. So I told you about primitive data types a little while ago, and all types of variables in Java are based off primitive data types. And the one I'm going to talk about today is no different. The one I'm going to talk about today is going to be strings. Now, a string, you can store words or phrases, or even entire sentences or paragraphs if you wanted to. Oh, that probably wouldn't be a good idea. Into strings. And strings are basically just a series of chars pasted together, and that's how it's built up on the primitive data type. So today we're going to learn how to work with strings, and that's the first thing I want to talk about. And the second thing I want to talk about is basic input. Now, when you run a program, you type down Java and name of the program, right? Well, you can run and put arguments after the name of the program and then use them in your program. So for instance, a lot of Hello World program tutorials will say Java Hello World, and then they'll say APC, or your name. And then it'll be programmed to print out whatever you put after Hello World. So it might say, in this case, it would say Hello APC. And that's how the arguments work. I'm going to teach you how to do stuff like that in your program. It's very useful, seeing as you get a little bit interactive ideas to it rather than just running the same every single time. And the third and last thing I want to talk about is variable conversions. Well, I talked a little about primitive data type casting in my primitive data type tutorial. And today we're going to talk about how you can convert more complex data types, in this case strings, down to primitive data types. So in this case, if you put in a number as your argument, it'll be registered as a string, but if you want, you can convert it over to an int or one of the numbers, the whole numbers, and I'll be telling you how to do that, and then you can use it after. You can use them as numbers afterwards. So without any further ado, let's get into the tutorial.
Okay, so I've already named my Java file, and now I'm going to create the class. Alright, that's our class. Yeah, this class is a little bit of a mouthful. There's so much stuff we're covering in this tutorial. I want it to be accurate, but in general, just for future reference, it's probably not a good idea to make variable names and class names very long, because then they become hard to work with. And now we're going to move on to our main method. Alright, so now we got that standard stuff down. We're going to start with the first thing on our list of three things that we're going to cover today, strings. Okay, so a string is a variable just like anything else, only it's a little more complex than primitive data types we learned earlier. So I can say string test equals this. Simple enough. So string is the type. It's not highlighted because Notepad++ isn't as good with highlighting as some of the other programs that are specifically made of Java. It only has primitive data type and some of these modifiers. The string isn't set, but it is a real variable, and name is test, and we put this in quotation marks to show that it's a word and not a variable. And notice our double quotations. If we were doing a character, it would have been single quotation, but since it's a word, double quotations. So that's how you would create strings. And then you can use them to print, you can print them out and do all kinds of stuff with them. And now we're going to move on to the second thing I want to talk about, basic input. Basic input's fun stuff. I use it all the time. So here we have our main method, right? And the main method is a method, and like I talked about last tutorial, we have these parentheses right here, and in between them is a parameter. So it's kind of weird. How can you input parameters into the main method? Because whenever you start a method, you do that within the code, and the main method is the first method you run, so it's impossible to input parameters, right? Well, there is a way to input parameters when you first run the code, and I'm going to show you how to do that now, but first I'll tell you how they're saved. What this is it's a string, but it's a string array, and we're going to talk about arrays in a later tutorial, but just think of it as a list of things. Let me make a little comment here. So if args is the name of the array, and put down the brackets, and in between the brackets put down the index that you want to search. So it's on arg0, that would be the first thing in the list. First list in array. And then args1 is second on the list, and etc. This is actually just a programming concept that comes up a lot. The first thing on the list doesn't have an index of 1, it's 0. Very often in programming, when they start with 0 instead of 1, because 0 is a number, and it was basically wasting a very good number if you just started with 1. So you're gonna have to get used to it. It gets confusing sometimes, like if you're at the 6th index, you're really on the 7th thing on the list. So just keep that in mind for future reference. The million-dollar question, how can you input things in the method when it starts, right when the class starts, and you can't run anything in it? The way it works is you input arguments command prompt. There you go. Sorry, and that comment, and that's a little thing. Okay, so I'm gonna move to command prompt to show you how this works. I'm going to type down echo off to give me more space to work with. There you go. Okay, so you type down standard command java something. So that's how you would run this something class. So after that, you input your argument. So if I say I love Java, you have spaces in there, so those separate the arguments. So there are 3 arguments here: I, love, and Java. Let me just mark it for. Mark it, okay. If so I would be stored under the first index, arg0. So if I type arg0 in our code, it'll know that it equals string I. args1 would be the string love, and args3 would be the string Java. So that's how you would input arguments. So that said, we want our string to be named name, because we're going to input our name into the arguments. We want to be equal to args0. Another thing I reminded me of that, I said main is method, and you get to choose what you want to name this args, and I use args, but you'll see people sometimes name it arguments, in which case you would need to name this variable arguments as well, because these match this part up here. But I name it args, so as long as these match, make sure they match, okay? I'll just keep moving along. Now we're going to use a new method in order to print this out, system.out.print. And usually we put an ln here, but okay, what the ln stands for is line, and if we use print ln, it'll print it on its own line, but if you use print, and something that's already printed on that line before, it'll just paste it right on the back of that. That's why you printed. So that's the difference between print and print ln. It's a very minute difference, but you really want to know it because it's pretty preliminary stuff. So we're going to say your name is, so just standard string, that's what's going to input. Then we're going to add on our name variable. Okay, simple enough. We'll compile it. Compiled fine, that's perfect. And now Java, we're going to run it. Okay, so normally you'd press enter and you'd see if it worked, but now we're going to type in our input or argument. I'll put in my name, but you'll put in your name, I'm assuming. APC, so that'll be the first argument in the code. It'll be arg0. So I press enter. Your name is APC. That's the computer talking to me. So there we go. It's a little bit interactive now, and we can have it say stuff to us based on what we input. So that's really cool. Now we're going to work with the second argument. So create a new variable, byte age. It's going to be a byte number, and we're going to set equal to args1. For advanced programmers, if they see this, little bells will be going off their head saying, no, this can't work this way because this is a string and this is a byte and they are very incompatible. Well, yes, they are very incompatible. When we're working with primitive data types, we could do something like that, and this would convert it over, but it's not that simple with strings because it's a more complex conversion process. So we need a method that's specifically designed to convert strings over to bytes. Luckily, there's a big library of methods that Java provides us, and we're going to take advantage of them. So there's a class called byte, and within that class, there is a method called parse byte. And if we put parentheses on that, there we go. This will take that as a parameter, and as a return type, it'll give a byte, and it'll do the best it can to convert that string over to a byte, and it'll set equal to age. Now you've learned something new about class structure because we have the class byte, and within that one, we pulled out a method. It's the same system with our print and println methods. So we go under system, which is a class, and inside that system class is another class. This class you'd say extends system, but we'll get more into that later. That's inheritance. That's a little bit complex. And then in this out class is the print method. So that's how we find it every time. So now we've got this string args1 converted over to a byte. Now I'll just print out system.out.print. Remember, this will print right behind what we have here. So we're going to start with a space because we want there to be space after the name, and say, and you are this many years. Press enter there, running out of space. Old. There. Now, this and that isn't turning gray, which is scaring me a little bit, but I think just because I pressed the Java compiler should still run it correctly. That's just a problem with Notepad++. I'm hoping. Fingers crossed. So I'm saving it, and now I'm gonna run it, or no, compile it. Okay, I guess that was wishful thinking on my part. We're going to move this years part down to the next line, and there we go. Never panic when you see errors, just read through them and think through them logically. So now we've moved it down, and it should work better this time. So compile, there we go, fixed. And then run, and then it says exception because I only inputted a name. So the APC, so now I gotta put down age. I am 18 at the moment. So now it says, your name is APC and you are 18 years old. There we go, perfect. So today we learned how to take in inputs, and we learned that strings, we know how to work with the inputs now, and we can plug them into our code at will, and if we want to convert one over to a number, we can do that now. So now that you know that, you should be equipped to try out my challenge. So stay tuned for that. Okay, so for today's challenge, I want to make another class, and we've created a profile of ourselves in the tutorial, and I want you to create a profile of your pet. So type on Java, and the class I made, I call it my dog, but I guess if you don't have a dog, you can call it my cat or my fish or my imaginary friend or something like that. So the first argument is going to be name of your pet or whatever, or your name of your pet, and my name of my pet is Misty, named after that girl in the first season of the Pokemon TV series. I was first named her and I was like 6 years old. Next one we're going to do is what type of dog or animal she is. So she's a Cocker Spaniel. Note that if you don't want Cocker Spaniel to be recognized as two individual arguments, you have to put quotations around it so it's recognized all as one argument. And then how old is she? And she is 12 years old, almost 13. Here it is. Your dog's name is Misty. He or she is a Cocker Spaniel, and she, I probably should change it, he or she, is 4,380 days old. So that's another part of the challenge. I want you to convert this from years to days. Now there is one problem you're going to come across with it, and that's going to require you to use a different method than I used in the tutorial. And this is a good challenge for you, I think, because you're going to have to either guess what the method name is, which is what I did the first time I came across this problem, and you might be able to get it by guessing, or you can look it up. Either way, you'll figure it out on your own, and it'll be good for the future, because in the future you will have to figure things out on your own a lot, because it's impossible to memorize everything. So that is all for this tutorial. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, I would appreciate if you rated the video and leave a comment. And if you want to stay up to date on my newest Java tutorials or whatever tutorials I do in the future, please subscribe and you'll be notified whenever I make new videos. And if you found this challenge helpful and think that you could use some more challenge to solidify or to further help your skills with Java, then I would recommend going to my website, synforge.co. There you can find a list of challenges. There's only 5 up there right now, but I will add more soon, I promise. You can also find my games there and a big list of all my tutorials. It's also a work in progress, so any critique will be much appreciated. So I'll end it here. Again, thank you for watching. We'll see you guys next time.